When you watch somebody die before your eyes, it gives you a much different perspective on it than it does being a half a world away, reading about it or watching it on television. Also, the pictures on television are sanitized compared to what they are on the ground.
I asked the same question, and I have to say that Christian's answer was far better.
Okay. Now, as Ben said, putting that aside, what the part of the clip we didn't play you there is that he explains why the media doesn't do the accurate job of portraying the level of violence there. He goes on to let's just say that he explains it rather than excuses it. He says, "Look, we don't want to show you the dead people because they have families here, and that's kind of raw for them to go through that." It's one thing to hear that your family member died in Iraq. It's another to actually see his, basically his head blown off somewhere. Or as he described, one of the people that he saw dead, they had basically disintegrated because an IED went underneath him on the passenger side of his Humvee. And then there was another reason, we don't want to show things that are that shocking on TV. And I think those reasons are understandable and ultimately wrong.
Yeah.
We do need to see it because then we don't understand what the hell's going on.
Look, we're also missing a very simple part of journalism here. I've said this before. It's not complicated. If you see an American soldier who's been killed in action in Iraq, you don't zoom in on his face. But you can shoot him from 12 feet away, and the point is delivered not as effectively as if you showed him incredibly close. And we can debate that. But the fact of the matter is, if your concern is the family, it's easily avoidable. But we're not showing anything, and it's crazy not to
show it. Look, I understand those. Like I'm saying, those concerns are not illegitimate. They're not part of some corporate scam. They're not to excuse actions, etc. They're not to whitewash for the Republican administration or anything along those lines. But the decisions are ultimately incredibly wrong. They damage the country by not allowing us to see the full consequences of our decisions. They become remote and not realistic to people. It still seems like a video game. Yeah. Whereas when you see somebody's brain outside of their head, it is jarring. And the fact is, that is happening. That is the reality.
I am sympathetic to a desire to preserve some degree of dignity for the dead. And again, there are ways to.
They're dead either way. I'll tell you that right now. And why not showing it to them? I think you're not giving them the proper dignity. You're saying, as if it's something that happened theoretically. No, they're actually dead.
Would there be the argument, though, that we've fought wars similar to this before, and the people back home haven't seen the type of coverage that we have the ability to see now?
I believe, first of all, they saw more in Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, and first of all, they saw caskets coming home in Vietnam at the very least. And there is a big compromise between Jenkins saying show everything and what we show is nothing. And I'm saying I'm 85 I'm sympathetic to the concerns that real working journalists have. You go 85% of the way toward Jenk and accomplish everything you're trying to accomplish without when you're putting something on the air. When you can tell when you're like, okay, that's too much, it crosses some personal barrier. And there might be a time when you would say at 11 o'clock at night, hey, by the way, now we're going to even cross that barrier because we have to show you what's happening. And there's ways to do it, but not showing it at all. The unwillingness to show a dead U.S. soldier even from 50 feet away, it's crazy. It is ultimately, I think, indefensible.